Well, time to bring you some analysis on that cabinet reshuffle last night. President Cyril Ramaphosa has fired 3 ministers in that long-awaited cabinet reshuffle. Now, gone are Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, Sports, Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa, and the Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Maite Nkoana-Mashabane. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma has moved from Co-operative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and the president also fired Public Enterprises Deputy Minister Phumulo Masualle. Now, the country's first Minister of Electricity is Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. Ramokgopa will also oversee the electricity crisis response with the political responsibility and the authority and control over all critical aspects of the Energy Action Plan. So to help us unpack these changes, we're joined now via Zoom by political analyst Prince Mashele. Prince, good to have you with us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and to viewers at home. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolute pleasure. So you've had a few hours to think this through, mull over. What are your overall thoughts on President Cyril Ramaphosa's appointments? Did he really make big changes?
He has essentially done 4 things. Number 1, he has completely missed South Africa's public mood. South Africans had expected that he would cut down the number of cabinet portfolios in order to save money because we are in a crisis. What did he do? He bloated and expanded his cabinet. So South Africans are disappointed. Number 2, he has failed. He didn't have the courage to remove dead weight that is crippling our economy in his cabinet. 1, Pravin Gordhan. He is crippling public enterprises. There is no evidence that he is performing there. Transnet, I'm not sure if there's any state-owned enterprises that is working well under him. Didn't remove him. Gwedemantashe in mining did not remove him. So that's the second thing that he did. Third, he has created confusion in the presidency, packed the presidency with 8 bodies. 4 ministers and deputy ministers. There will be confusion in the presidency. You actually can't understand why do you need to have such a crowd in the presidency. The last thing is he revealed his silver bullet in the form of the Minister of Security, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. I am not aware of any successful thing that this gentleman has done, either as mayor of Tshwane or as head of projects in the presidency. By the way, he does not even have the qualifications to actually perform in that portfolio. I checked, he has a master's in a PhD in public affairs. So this silver bullet turned out to be a damn squib. Overall, I think this is a massive disappointment. In fact, this team is left with just over a year in office. I don't see what they can change within that space of time.
So what does this say about the president and, of course, people saying that this was a balancing act for him? There are those who believe that he has a constituency within the ANC to serve and another constituency outside of the ANC to also keep happy. So where does this leave him and how does this play out in those 2 constituencies?
I think that it actually communicates the very clear message that this is a president without courage, number 1. Number 2, he is a president who is preoccupied with internal politics in the ANC. He cares very little about the bigger country called South Africa. So that is very clear from what he did. The last point I want to make, which is the third thing, he seems to have lost interest in the business of governing South Africa. My sense, by the way, is that this president is going to resign. He is not going to lead the ANC into the campaigns come 2024. I will be very surprised if he finishes 2023 as president of the ANC and president of the country. He has completely lost interest in the business of governing. To be frank, he has completely failed If you think of the new dawn that he promised us when he came in 2018 as the state president, you would struggle to identify big things that he has been able to achieve in the direction of a new dawn.
So to that point, if you say that we probably will not see President Ramaphosa at the helm of the country, or the ANC for that matter, come the end of the year or into the next general election next year, what do you think is going to happen? You suggest there, Prince, that he might resign. Could it be that he may be pushed as well? Because if we look at the time that it took from the time that the deputy president, former deputy president now, Didi Mabuza, resigned, to how it seemed to have been, quite an effort to just appoint, one would imagine, Paul Mashatile. Am I reading too much into that? Is there something going on there, or was it just, the process playing out?
You are not reading too much into it. All people who have eyes can see that Cyril Ramaphosa is a damp squib. He is not a decisive president. I mean, even small things like time. We are told the announcement is going to be made at 8 o'clock. We wait. Suddenly it has been moved to 8:30. We wait. Suddenly the whole thing starts at 8:45. You can see that this is a man who is not sure of what he's doing. Now, he allows various forces in the ANC to pull him hither and thither. If you are a decisive leader and you know what you are doing, you would tell people where to stop and do what you think is good for the country. He has not been doing that. I mean, he has disappointed South Africans. So I think that the cabinet he announced, by the way, was a balancing act, number one. Number two, it was actually a product of consensus. He had to consult and make sure that everyone is happy. So it is not quite his cabinet. It is a cabinet of a collective or of a deployment committee of the ANC. So he can't be confident even in commanding it, which is why I think spiritually the man has completely disengaged from the business of governing. I don't think he's going to be pushed. He himself, I think, wants out. He will resign himself without being pushed, in my view.
So, one of the latest buzz phrases is quiet quitting. You're suggesting that the president is quiet quitting at this point.
He is sliding silently out of the room. One day we will wake up and be surprised that the president has submitted a letter of resignation to the Speaker of Parliament. I think this day is going to come in 2023.
So let's talk about the new Deputy President, Paul Mashatile. And we saw how that situation played out in Nasrec in December. So your thoughts, first and foremost, on Paul Mashatile ascending to the Deputy Presidency of the country before we even get to the 2024 elections?
Look, he is a skilled political chess player. If you look at his ascent to the second top position, he was so smart. He went to negotiate with KZN and agreed to deputize Zweli Mkhize, even as he knew Zweli Mkhize was not going to make it, but he wanted the votes from KZN. And before they realized, the man occupied the second top position in the ANC. He did actually more or less what Didi Mabuza did, dribbling forces within the ANC in order for him to get the second top position. But beyond political saviness, there is nothing that you can say about Paul Mashatile that can build or give confidence to South Africans that if the country were to be in the hands of this man, South Africa would make progress. I am not aware of his big achievements. Number one, he was Premier of Gauteng. He didn't shake the province. Number two, I'm not aware of his technical skills, by the way, even his knowledge of the economy. He hasn't demonstrated it. He speaks in tongues and he fakes philosophical knowledge that is not there, to be honest. He has never studied any philosophy. So this is a man who wants power, and I think he's going to get it. But I am not sure, actually, if he's going to take South Africa anywhere if he becomes president. I am aware that he's cooking a scheme, by the way, because they are aware in the ANC that they won't get 51% next year, to co-govern with Julius Malema. I cannot imagine a government led by Paul Mashatile and Julius Malema as deputy president. I shudder to imagine that.
So, and that's a very, critical point, because I think, as you say, the ANC does realize that 2024 is not a given. It is not even a given that they may occupy the presidency after the next general election. So does that embolden people to now make bigger moves within the ANC that would be more self-serving?
Yeah, look, this is the last chance for these cadres to throw some sense into their pockets. Even those who were brought into cabinet, by the way, these will be their last recipients of the glorified social safety net. They know that after 2024, most of them will be unemployed, which is why they have to make hay while the sun shines. So I'm not surprised that they would jostle to get in there for the last time. After 2024, they all know that it's game over.
So I just, before we get to the end of this conversation, also want to pulse you on the latest developments around Phala Phala, because, that obviously would, one imagine, would have some sort of impact on how things ultimately play out for the rest of the year going into that general election next year. So yesterday, SARS basically confirming to the DA, who had submitted a PAIA request for some information regarding the monies that was supposedly brought through at OR Tambo to buy the buffalo on Christmas Day at Phala Phala, and SARS saying that no, they have no such records. So what does that mean for President Ramaphosa right now?
Look, you could see the posture of the president when he made the announcement last night, that he was a worried and troubled man. Why? Because this Phala Phala announcement by SARS weighed heavily on his psychology. It actually sent a signal to him that this Phala Phala thing is not over. He will still have to deal with it. My sense is that he's aware that the road ahead is going to be very rocky, which is why, in my view, he would want to exit government. And he can sense that if he were to fight this while inside government, it is very clear that SARS has made a signal that people don't want to fall for him. So even the Reserve Bank, given what SARS had said, will not fall for him. So I think that he knows that he's in trouble and that this thing is not over, which is why the sooner he exits, the better in order for him to go and deal with his own mess outside the state.
Any positives from that cabinet reshuffle for you, Prince Mashele?
There is no positive. I mean, look at that entire collective. It comes from the ANC. There's even dead wood, by the way, that has been brought in as if it is new. Take a Sihle Zikalala. What do you think Sihle Zikalala can do to improve anything in South Africa? What has he improved in KZN? Absolutely nothing. So, unfortunately, it is the same dead wood from the same party. I don't see these people improving anything in South Africa. So I don't see anything positive, to be honest.
Well, Prince, we're going to have to leave it there. But, that's, of course, Prince Mashele helping us to unpack President Cyril Ramaphosa's new cabinet, which also saw Kgosientsho Ramokgopa appointed as the country's inaugural Minister of Electricity.